All right, so we are going to scroll through YouTube and watch some videos, and I'm going to make commentary about what we are watching to help you understand what is being said better. Let's go ahead and start here. Dave Portnoy, the All In
People always
interview.
ask me, we did not have people beating down our doors. Like I always, one of the things I've heard throughout the course of Barstool, you should be making so much money here and doing this there and deals there. It's like, I'm looking, no one, I don't see these mythical deals everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
And there was no bidding war when churning came around.
Mythical deals. So he's saying that like tongue in cheek. He is saying that in a facetious way. He's saying that in a way that he's like he's being funny about it. These mythical deals, I believe he said. Mythical means like something that is a myth that like does not exist. So that's why he's saying that.
All right, besties. I think that was another epic discussion.
People love the interviews.
I could hear him talk for hours.
Absolutely. We crush your questions in a minute.
We are giving people ground truth data to underwrite your.
And talk a little bit about the history of the business. Super interesting to us when the acquisition happened with Penn and the subsequent buyback. We thought it was a super interesting story. We actually reached out and tried to have a conversation with you at that time about it, but unfortunately missed you. So we're really glad to have you here today. We hope to talk about that, hope to talk about media, free speech, politics. I think there's a lot of stuff you've talked about that we often talk about that I think we'd love to just have a dialogue, and we'll see where this goes.
Sounds good.
Yeah, welcome to the All In interview, and thanks for being with us. And Chamath, anything you want to start with?
Tell us about just getting out of New York.
Yeah, so we were saying before, we relocated to New York in 2016 when Chernin bought half the company. And it was basically the concept was create.
All right, this is getting pretty technical here, so let's go ahead and move on. Let's see what topics we have. Breaking down the 2020 Penn deal. Dave's persona. Okay, that's good. So persona, like somebody's like maybe like public personality or their personality in general.
What is your persona and what do people feel about you?
Depends who you ask. Some people love me and they'll be like, this guy should run for president. And some people think I'm the devil. So depends what article you read. But, all the things that,
Who
sexist.
loves you? What do they look like, that person? And who hates you? What do they look like?
Well, I'd say a rational person likes me and a crazy person doesn't like me. But that's my own.
So a rational person is like a thinking person, somebody who uses logic.
I feel the same way. It's so crazy.
I mean, I think if you're going stereotypical, you're going to say the right generally likes me and the left.
All right, so he's talking about the right and left, meaning like the political spectrum, conservative versus
extreme left generally doesn't. I think the moderates on both sides generally like me, but my core beliefs generally tend, and people who follow me for a long time know this.
Okay, he said they tend to. So whenever something tends to do something, it means it maybe leans one way or the other.
Tend to line up with the left more than it does with the right. But the hate I get comes from the left, not the right.
You're a man without a home.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of...
Man without a home. Yeah, we use this to talk about a lot of different things. It doesn't mean a man that doesn't, live in a home like a homeless person. It just means like, if you're referring to like politics or referring to, other different types of ways in which you don't feel that you have a side. You're in the middle.
Philosophy they have there. But I will say, if you say something that goes contrary to either side, they'll equally jump down your throat and be like, forget everything we've said about him. Like, I remember I said it's pro-choice once, and I mean, the right wanted to cut my tongue out of my mouth. I mean, they were coming from people who had
the word slit means like cut, right? So for some reason we oftentimes use this when we're referring to like the throat. I thought he was actually going to say they want to slit my throat, but then he actually said cut my tongue. So cut, slit, same thing.
10 years been like, we love this guy, we love this guy, we love this guy. Disagreed on one point, and they're like, we hate this guy, we hate this guy, we hate this guy. So both. I guess I'm a man without a home is a fair way to put it.
But
Yeah.
Dave, at the end of the day, it's like you speak your mind and people appreciate someone who speaks their mind and speaks their truth,
Yeah.
or you speak the agenda.
Okay, so speaks their truth. You're gonna hear this a lot in the English speaking world. It just means like you're speaking your mind, right? You're being true to yourself. You're speaking your truth. It doesn't mean that there's different truths. That would be ridiculous. There's truth, and then there's information that is not true. So if you're speaking your truth, you're speaking
And
your
if
mind.
you speak the agenda, they say we like you. And if you don't speak the agenda, we don't like you.
Yeah.
I mean, is that
and it varies from if you cannot speak the agenda and they don't like you, but if you get back on agenda,
All right, let's go ahead and check out another video. So let's keep scrolling through here, and let's see what we got. Once again, what's in the algorithm is not necessarily what I'm interested in. It's that I tutor English online, so this is oftentimes from class and also class research. All right, let's check out this. This is a little bit of history.
If you went to an aristocratic Roman's house and opened the front door and walked in, the first thing you would see would be a big wooden cabinet.
Aristocratic, that refers to like people in the past that had like influence, social influence, things like this.
And if you open that up, what you would see would be row after row of wax death masks. So when a Roman aristocrat died, they literally put hot wax on his face and made an impression of his face at that moment. And they hung these in a big cabinet right inside the front door. So every time you entered your house, you were literally staring at the faces of your ancestors. And every child in that family would have obsessively memorized every accomplishment of every one of those ancestors. He would have known their career, what offices they held, what battles they fought in, what they did. When somebody new in the family died, there would be a big funeral, and they would talk about all the things their ancestors had did. The kids in the family would literally take out those masks, tie them onto their own faces, and wear them in the funeral procession. So you were like wearing the face of your ancestors. So you as an individual weren't important. You were just the latest iteration of that family. And there was enormous weight, huge weight, to live up to the
An enormous weight. So the word weight here is being used in an abstract sense. If we feel an enormous weight, of course, we're not referring to like weight that we're holding, like a dumbbell or something like that is heavy. It's like the feeling of something. You feel a weight whenever something is stressful, perhaps to think about.
deeds of your ancestors. So the Romans were absolutely obsessed with the past, especially with your own family. Every Roman kid who was, let's say, an aristocratic family could tell you every one
Kid
of
is
his
just another word
ancestors
for
back
child.
centuries. I can't go beyond my grandparents. I don't even know, but that's maybe 100 years. So it's a completely different attitude towards the past.
And the level of celebration that we have now of the ancestors, even the ones we can name, is not as intense as it was in Roman times.
No, I mean, it was obsessive and oppressive. It determined what you did.
Oh,
yes, because there's that weight for you to act like your ancestors did.
So oppressive, usually we refer this to talk about like people, oppressing another group of people, being mean to another group of people. But this is like he's using another word of how these Romans felt with all of this weight of feeling about the importance of their ancestors. So they were like oppressing themselves in a way with this this focus, this obsession, perhaps with their ancestors.
do you think, not to speak sort of philosophically, but do you think it was limiting to the way the society develops to be
Yes,
deeply constrained by the limiting in a good way or a bad way? You think?
Well, like everything, it's a little of both, but the bad. So on the one hand, it gives them enormous strength and it gives them this enormous connection. It gives them guidance. But the negatives, what's interesting, is it makes the Romans extremely traditional minded and extremely conservative. And I mean conservative in the sense of resistant to change. So in the late Republic, which we'll probably talk about later, Rome desperately needed to change certain things, but it was a society that did things.
If we are desperate, it means that we have this strong desire to do something, but we're not there yet. We have like work to do. We're if you're desperate for money, then you need money, but you're not gonna have what you need yet.
Things the way the ancestors did it, and they didn't make some obvious changes which might have saved their republic. So that's the downside, is that it locks you into something and you can't change. But to get us back to the Brutuses, so 500 years after that.
All right, this is gonna get pretty technical. Let's go ahead and move on to something else. How about see if I have anything like comedy or something, just like people talking on a podcast. Wow, my algorithm is very serious right now. Here we go.
Planting onions, and I was like, I'll do that, and it grows like 9 onions. Yeah, but wait, is it
Where do you live?
L.A.?
Okay.
Where,
You plant onions in L.A.?
Next to my marijuana. Hey, hey, wait, is it frustrating as a business owner who makes good money, right, on a business paradigm, and then to have a guy like Conor McGregor show up or Ronda Rousey who changed the game on you?
No, I love it.
Really?
I fucking love it, man. That's like my favorite thing. Like when we first found Connor, and I've told the story, I was like, I told Lorenzo, I had dinner with him, and I'm like, Lorenzo, I don't know if this guy can fucking throw I don't know if this guy can fight, but if he can even throw a fucking punch, he's going to be like the biggest star ever.
You knew it.
Oh, I fucking knew it the first night I had
Because of
dinner
his
with
like charisma and
him.
like,
100%.
really.
His energy.
Charisma is like how we. It's like charisma is like when we are like influencing people, or better said, charisma is like the likable attributes of ourselves, right? If you're like very positive and you're like you're making people feel good, then you're charismatic, you're smooth, you're socially smooth.
His personality,
But is there
and he's not a dumb guy. Conor McGregor is a smart guy. He gets fucking business and
no, it's clear he gets business.
Notice, just in case you're not aware, he keeps cursing. He's saying the word fuck. Here he just said fucking, so that's why it's not showing up.
But don't you get a lot of people who like especially in the fight game, who come in with a lot of bravado?
Fight game. So we do this a lot in English. Like if we're talking about certain industries and things like that, or niches, then we'll call it a game. So of course, fighting is not a game, but he's saying like in the fight game. You might say that like I don't know, maybe in the marketing game, or in the social media game, or whatever you're talking about. If you're like working in that industry, then you might call it a game.
Talk a lot of shit. But are you able to then register?
Bravado. The word bravado means like excessive, or I shouldn't say excessive, but it's like a lot of confidence.
This is kind of like
bravado.
False bravado. Like this isn't, you know what I mean? Like the difference between
but that
like
doesn't matter to me. The thing is with me is when you come in, whoever you are, that's what I'm selling. Right? What I don't like is there's people that come in that are pieces of fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that are bad guys.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure you don't know
that he's a piece
who
of
the
shit.
fucking pieces of shit are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my fucking job.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? Honestly, I was sitting on a plane today and I went, I've never met a UFC fighter that I didn't like. Every single one, Cowboy, Izzy, Connor, Nate, every single one I've ever met, I've always enjoyed them. They're Cowboy.
Well, you know what's been awesome? As the sport has gone like this, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, because this sport was so, where we came from 25 years ago, shit on wasn't allowed on fucking pay-per-view, let alone TV. You know, we never lost that.
Pay-per-view is like, actually you could probably understand that pretty well, but pay-per-view is like whenever you pay for something that you're watching on your TV service that you already have. So like a fight or like a game or something like that.
Connection with the fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still to this day
Dude.
this sport that if you go to a UFC fight, the odds of meeting some of your favorite fighters are fucking almost 100%.
Yeah.
You're gonna meet them, get pictures with them, sign stuff, and they're all really good to the fucking fans. It's just that is the sport.
It's
true.
Cool that like your sport, you are the most candid guy running one of the major sport. Like all the other.
Okay, so let's take a look at the word candid. All right, so I recommend using dictionary.com for a lot of words. Let me just switch my screen over really quick to dictionary.com. The word candid is like frank, outspoken, open, and sincere. So straightforward, you can think about it as that, or being genuine. You're honest with people, and you're openly honest with people.
Heads of sports leagues, it's very corporate. Like
Right.
all the answers are, you're just like, I didn't get anything out of this. You don't you don't know what the guy really thinks about anything. It's
Right.
just like a
Canned
official
statement that a lawyer wrote.
It's a lawyer statement.
Yeah.
And then also those leagues oftentimes make sure that their athletes also don't become authentic.
All right, let's check out something else. So I have some Spanish videos mixed in through my feed right now. How about we do? Let's go ahead and do this one here, actually.
Human. We all miss. We can all fall asleep in a moment, and yet the internal language of it represents sometimes that internal war can represent the external war, and it happens with our words or words about ourselves.
Obviously, abstractly, internal war. If you're having an internal war with yourself, maybe you're conflicted about some ideas.
And so, be mindful of that internal narrative.
Mindful. That's like to pay attention to it. Being mindful, being aware.
And if you do something that you feel is maybe you've missed, rather than it's like, oh, I'm so stupid, it's like, okay, let's begin again here. There's an opportunity when you actually connect from that creative space that we learn. We're meant to miss. We're meant to miss the mark. That's how we tune. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow. And from my own experience, if I'm beating myself up or having harsh words about myself, I get arrested. I get stuck in a state because.
Okay, so she uses the word arrested in a very particular way, a very specific way. Arrested, usually when we use this word arrested, we're referring to when somebody is like put in jail. They have handcuffs put on them, they're put in the back of a police car, et cetera, whatever. However, in this sense, she's talking about just being like paralyzed, like not like if you're arrested or you're paralyzed in doing something, then you're not taking action. You're putting it off. So that is how she's using the word
his mind is believing those thoughts, and we're attaching to that identity for ourselves. And so, having our daughter and watching love live through her, watching love flow through as our nature animating her, I recognize that one of the greatest, most powerful gifts I really believe that we can give ourselves, never mind our children, is the example. A lot of people speak about self-love. Where does that begin? It begins actually with our own internal word choices. And by the way, this doesn't happen. It's not like you're going to listen to this and say, okay, I'm going to speak perfectly. There's no such thing. It's about catching ourselves, be aware. We're so aware of what's happening externally in the world. It's my experience, as we start to become aware, what am I even believing, or what are the words or the thoughts that are coming through that I'm actually believing in this moment? That's such a powerful perspective, because we can change that. We can't always change the external, but as we change the internal, those narratives that we have about ourselves, when we feel more.
Narratives in this context are like viewpoints that we have about ourselves. Narrative is usually used, of course, like, a story.
At ease or supporting ourselves. I know this sounds so simplistic, but therefore we affect the external because there's more to offer. I watch the innocence of watching our daughter. She's 2.5 now, and you watch the innocence of no stories.
Yeah.
No overlays to an experience. It's just the experience.
When
And
I just walked
please.
into the kitchen when you were in there with our daughter just a
mhm.
little while ago, I said, "Hey, what are you up to?" And she
Mhm.
said, "I'm enjoying some blueberries." And that I have to, like, as soon as she
Mhm.
said it, I'm like, she got that from you. You that's part of your self-talk, but you do, like, our self-talk sometimes bleeds out into the ethers,
Yes.
and you use that word enjoying. And I was so delighted to hear this little 2.5-year-old go, "I'm just enjoying some blueberries." And in that moment, I was so grateful to you that you use the words that you do, and that's what our child will absorb. And that's often what happens. And it's time maybe you take a look at what you've absorbed and where you'd want to go now.
Yes.
Your vocabulary, your consistent vocabulary
Thank
is
you,
producing
Gretchen.
your consistent emotions, and your emotions are creating the quality of your life or lack thereof.
Yes.
And it's when you beat yourself up, which I used to do a lot of myself, when you're beating yourself up, as you beat yourself up more and more and more, there's a point in which you can't beat yourself up anymore. You can't handle it. And so then people externalize it.
Mm.
And they often externalize it by being irritated by something outside themselves. And they usually
Irritated is like agitated, bothered.
pick somebody that's safe to do that with, i.e., somebody who they actually love and is loved by, which you see people sometimes say things to their love of their life or their partner that they wouldn't say to a stranger.
Mm.
And it's just because they think it unconsciously it's safe, but it's not safe for your partner. It's not safe.
Unconsciously is, of course, the opposite of consciously. If you do something consciously, you're thinking about it, you're doing it intently, purposefully. But unconsciously is like, things that you might think or do, and it's just kind of like it just happens. You're not really focusing on it. You just unconsciously perhaps do something.
For you, because those things stack. That's why the Gottman thing is so important.
Mm.
And I think starting with your own internal world, it's like there's two worlds you got to master. There's the
Yes.
internal world and the external world. You can master the external world all you want, but if you don't master the internal world, you're going to have a terrible life. It wouldn't matter how much success or business or economics or whatever else the heck it is that you do. But, you think about it. Think of words as the original thoughts and that thoughts create. That's really what we're talking
Yes,
about. In the Bible, in the
absolutely.
beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God.
Mm.
There was nothing but darkness, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Those are metaphors for what God has given us. I believe what our Creator, whatever your idea of our Creator is, has given us the ability to create our life, and we create it with words. Your relationship is the culmination of the volume and the words that you use. If the words you're using over and over in your relationship are not supportive, not inspiring, not loving, not passionate, not caring, not compassionate, we can predict what your relationship.
Compassion is, the act or the feeling of being loving and kind to your fellow humans.
It's going to be like.
Mm.
Any relationship is the sum total of the communication that's happened. So you got to think of communication.
Okay, sum total is sometimes what we use to refer to like um, the whole of something. Like if you add everything up, that is like the sum, and then sometimes we call it sum total. So like the sum of 2 plus 2 is 4. You have 2, you have another 2, that's 4, of course. So the sum total is another way to say sum, which is like everything together.
It isn't just words, obviously,
Yes.
because your nonverbals, you're rolling your eyes or your true smile.
Rolling your eyes, if you're, if your eyes just like kind of go into the back of your head, right? You're rolling your eyes. It's oftentimes done like in a way to like you're showing sarcasm or disinterest, or you're just like ugh to like something that somebody like says or does. That is rolling your eyes.
Or whatever you're expressing is a huge part of communication. It's bigger than words.
Mm.
But the words are the origin of the organization of your thoughts, which then produce the emotions, which out of emotion comes your actions. Your actions change if you're pissed off than if you're feeling,
Pissed off means like very angry.
curious, or if you're feeling delighted, or if you're feeling
Delighted, that's not the most common word. Delighted means that you're feeling like fantastic. You're delighted. You're very happy.
excited about something. And so I think taking an inventory of the consistent words used, the emotional words.
Okay, so if you take inventory, that means you kind of like tally everything up about something. Inventory, we use to like as a word for like if you are a manager of a store, then you take inventory periodically of all the items in the store, and he's referring, of course, to like abstractly taking inventory of your thoughts or whatever it is he's talking about.
Choose not every word, and this isn't like Saturday Night Live, Stuart Smalley, if you're old enough to remember that, going to the mirror and going, "I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and by golly, people really."
Okay, he's getting very specific. And technical. Let's go ahead and check out another video. Okay, scrolling through this through my YouTube, and I saw something that piqued my interest. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so actually no, I'm sticking with podcasts though. I would play that, but I am doing podcasts. Let's check this out. Club Random Podcast.
You've been standing up to the woke mob more and more. And so, and so what's been the consequence? Not of course, not many people are
shit like that. But I got a great, I think, liberal arts education. And so that's kind of what your book reminded me of. But I mean, I'm in a different place than I was in the 70s.
I'm in a different place than I was in the 70s. He's referring to, of course, not his physical location. He's referring to the like the collective everything about him. Like his personal life, his business life, his career, his thoughts, everything. He's in a different place.
An atheist, and I felt like you were. I feel like
atheist, somebody who does not believe in God.
You're a lapsed atheist.
Lapsed. So lapsed is like you're, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about here, but the word lapsed means like to finish, right? If you go around a track, right, those are called laps. So he's using it as a verb, like lapsed in the past tense.
I feel like it's a paradox that someone.
Wow, paradox. Okay, so paradox. Let me go ahead and get the help of the dictionary here. A paradox. It's like contrasting things, but it's kind of hard to explain on the fly, meaning in the moment. So, sorry, that was I'm being probably a little bit confusing. Anyways, paradox. Let's check it out. So, paradox is a statement that seems self-contradictory or absurd, but in reality expresses a possible truth. So, less is more is a paradox often repeated in the arts and other fields. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it kind of seems ridiculous. Like, what do you mean less is more? But, sometimes, in fact, less is more. Like, I don't know what's an example of less is, like if you have like, less things in your backpack when you go to school, then, maybe it's actually more because instead of like carrying all of these books, maybe you just have a lot of ebooks that are downloaded on your computer and you just bring your computer. That would be an example of less is actually more. It's lighter, and you actually have more information in your computer, of course, than in a book.
of your extraordinary intellectual abilities is trying to reanimate this dead hooker called religion and bring it back to life in some way, or find what's
I'm not changing it because of the subject content. I'm just changing it because this is getting very technical again. He's talking